Welcome back, Unknown Black History Facts Slavery Edition. Okay, so a lot of people don't want to recognize, or a lot of people don't want to speak on the fact that Christianity was forced upon slaves, and that if slaves were allowed to read anything, the only thing that they could read was the Bible. Okay, and most slaves were not allowed to read because understand, knowledge is power, and when you have too much power, you have too much knowledge. Okay, they created a book that was titled How to Make a Negro Christian. They didn't want anything to do with traditional African traditions and traditional African religions and things that slaves worshiped before they came to the Americas. They wanted to whitewash everything, make black people forget who they were during slavery. Okay? A lot of these things you don't understand, that we were not allowed to read as black people during slavery. It was not a thing. It was not even legal to know how to read. Okay? The first slaves that was brought to the Americas was brought to Virginia. Yeah. It was brought right on up to Virginia, pulled up to the door. Here we go. Virginia. Okay? Now, there were 6 ports. The first port I'm going to talk about was in Charleston, South Carolina. The second port I'm going to talk about was in Newport, Rhode Island. The third port was in Baltimore, Maryland. Excuse me, y'all. I'm not editing nothing out, so y'all getting real raw, straight to the point. The fourth port was in Savannah, Georgia. The fifth port was in New Orleans, Louisiana, and the sixth port was in New York City, New York, y'all. So over the course of almost 200 years, from 1619 to 1808, slaves were imported and exported from Africa to the United States. Okay, the east coast of the United States. There were about 388,000 slaves that was brought over here to the United States that had to endure horrific conditions, even getting into the United States. It's crazy. Imagine being on a ship with a whole bunch of people this close to each other, bound by chains, wasn't able to use the bathroom, wasn't able to even eat food for days and months at a time, coming across the ocean. They were surrounded by feces. They were surrounded by throw up. They were surrounded by other dead bodies. They were surrounded by disease. It was fucking insane and horrible. A lot of slaves didn't even make it from Africa to the United States of America. A lot of them died in transit, died en route. Okay, now let's get into what they did to black male slaves, to black men. Okay, a lot of black men were forced to have sexual relations and intercourse with their mother. That's where the term mother effer is coined from, by the way. That's where that term comes from. And also, homosexuality was practiced very deeply in by slave masters. They would make black men walk around with their pants below their buttocks to let them know that they've been butt broken. That's where the term sagging comes from. Okay, they wanted to let the other slave owners and the other prominent men in the community know that these men have been butt broken, and they already have. Yeah, yep, that's what happened. A lot of the African American women were forced to work inside of these houses, were forced to be essayed by their slave owners. And also, they had a lot of the slave women were abused and treated real badly by the slave owners' wives. And this is because the jealousy that they had, because their husbands were so infatuated with these slave women. Okay. And let's also talk about how cannibalism was practiced all the way up into the 1960s by the white community in America. Okay, slaves knew that these slave owners and these plantation owners would literally eat Africans. They would eat slaves because in their mind they would embody who the slaves was. One of the famous cases was Nat Turner. After they unalived him, they actually ate him, ate his flesh, and turned his bones into family relics and family heirlooms and spread it all over Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina between family members. Okay, they ate this man because in their mind they were gonna get superpowers. How is it that you hate something and hate somebody so much, but you would literally digest it? Makes me question some things, but that's neither here nor there. Also, they castrated the black men, and after this took place, within a couple of days or sometimes even a couple of hours, these men would actually pass away and die due to intense and extreme bleeding. The conditions that slaves face during these times were absolutely horrific. And a lot of the things that we learned about slavery in schools was watered down and whitewashed for us not to see the reality and the cruelty that took place during slavery. But understand, some slavery lasted all the way up into the 1960s in states like Arkansas, Florida, and Mississippi. Okay? And when you put that in retrospect, my mother was born in 1963. I'm 31 years old. It was not that long ago. Okay? It was not that long ago. And as black people, no matter what we go through in America, no matter what we face, we were born and we were created to survive. We were born and we were created to build and to be great and to always create. So understand, the more we stick together, the stronger we become. We shall not let anything or anybody erase what we have built and where we have came from, because that will always be our history, no matter who says what. And if you're liking this series and if you're liking the vibe, I'm not really editing anything. I'm just being myself. And if I missed out on anything, I mispronounced anything, please let me know in the comments. But if y'all want to talk about anything while I'm doing this 28-day series of Untold Black History in the United States of America, for our black people to know what really happened during those times, please make sure to comment, like, subscribe, have a conversation with me. You talk to me, I talk back to you. But in the meantime, between time, peace and love and peace and blessings, y'all.